Good noon to everybody. We'll be starting with the second session on Scrum processes. We have already seen the Scrum basics. Now we'll be moving ahead to the Scrum processes. Now, first of all, we will try to understand the 7 ways of the software development. That is partially done work, extra processes, extra features, task switching, waiting, motion, and defects. Now, the thing is that there is a saying that a 90% complete project remains 90% complete. So, in the same way that a partially done work will remain partially done work. So, it will become less maintainable as it creates a backlog of the work to be done. Extra processes, okay, which do not add value. Likewise, the standardized processes we are all aware about, that is ADIT and so on. Extra features just to impress the client or customers or users are may not be helpful, isn't it, for the user. The fascination towards adding the extra features is creating a gap between the development organization's perception and understanding of the feature sets and what kind of an value add it can really do to the product. Task switching, that is the task switching happens is that is one person which is part of DBT that is try to work on doing too many tasks simultaneously. So uh, this might be reducing the efficiency of doing the task. Waiting, that is approval delays and dependencies, can create a kind of an boredom in the team. Okay, and the entire atmosphere will be affected due to this. Motion, that is time lost moving the artifacts or data from one location to another or hunting for information on wikis. A lot of time has been invested in gathering up the resources, that is typically creating the surveys and so and so on. So about the missing information, you can't help it out, or some of the times the incorrect information is been populated. So these are the dangerous signs. Okay, and defects, fixing up the defects and impact of the rework, this all will be creating problem, right? So 7 ways, okay, we have to bother about before we can start off the Scrum was founded on empirical process control theory, or simply empiricism, that is collection of historical data, feedback, and result analysis. And it asserts that it comes from experience and decision making. It uses iterative approach, and way back in 1990s, the Scrum was been first suggested by Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland in Uppsala conference, that was about the object-oriented engineering conference in 1995. That is to work out with the research and identify the viable markets, technology, and the product capabilities, develop products and enhancement, develop the uh, cloud and sustain the cloud, that is to resolve the online demand so that quick processing can happen, and sustain and renew the product. That is, once you are developing a product, it may last for a significant duration of time before a new change request comes in. So this 5 point agenda was being put up by Ken Schwaber and J. Sutherland way back in 1995. People have worked on these things and then uh, pointed out the 3 pillars of Scrum. This is been an expert from the original document that has been created by Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland way back in 1995. So they advise that there are 3 pillars of Scrum, that is transparency, then inspection, and then adaptation. As the words are being meaningful, they themselves suggest that what are the things they are being indicating. Transparency is requiring the aspects for standardization of common vocabulary, that is the process dimensions must be understood by the team. Inspection, there are the inspectors who will be doing the scrum artifacts progress monitoring and to detect the glitches in the performance so that the sprint goal can be stabilized. Adaptation, once the inspector determines the deviations within the limits, he accepts it. Otherwise, if it goes outside the acceptable limits, the product is being discouraged. So, unacceptability may result on the proportion of deviation. If it is accommodated, the product will be through, or the sprint will be through, or otherwise it will be likely to be rejected. So people must be ready for the rejection as well. Now, who is the product owner? This is a recap of the product owner. Although we have studied product owner, scrum master, and the development team, which comprises DBT, the product owner is responsible for maximizing the value of the product. That is, now he is the sole person and not a committee. Okay, here you can see this. Okay, he is a single person, not a committee. And for product owner to succeed, entire organization must respect the decisions made by the product owner. No one can force the DBT to work from a different set of requirements. So you can understand the importance of a product owner role that comes in with experience. That is clearly indicating product backlog because the product owner writes the product backlog. So prioritization to the successful implementation of the product backlog, the communication of all of these will be done by only product owner to the target audience, that is the customers or the users or the stakeholders of the product. So the product backlog has to be visible, transparent. Okay, as we have seen in the previous slide, transparency, inspection, and adaptation were been the three important issues. Okay, three important pillars. And so it is the job of product owner to see that the development team has got the commitment to do all these things. The development team, it consists of professionals. They are working around on releasable increment of done product. A done increment is required at the sprint review. Now one has to do the definition of done. What is being done? What was the target that is being set? Is it having compliance with the user stories that are being given? Now the development team are being structured, are being empowered. There has to be a synergy, that is cohesiveness between the team members because they are having the characteristics as discussed in the previous presentation. And just two important points to note on here is that Scrum recognizes no titles. It recognizes no titles for development team members, regardless of the work being performed by the performer. So, entire team will be appreciated or maybe, questioned for the achievements, that is our success stories, or impediments, that is the obstacles. There are no sub teams. Likewise, you cannot have suggesting that 5 to 9 members are there and under one member there are 9 people. So if we do like that, then 9 by 9, 81 people will be working around. So this is not the case. No sub teams are being involved. The team members have got specialized skills. Scrum Master, okay, follows the servant leader kind of an style. Promoting and supporting is the job of the Scrum Master. puts up the Scrum theory, practices, rules, and values to the development team, services to the product owner, that is, takes up the goals, scope, and product domain from the product owner and takes up the product backlog, performs the product planning dimensions understanding, and knows how to maximize the value, because prioritization has been already been done. So how to work out with the sprints is the job of the scrum master. Now we have seen that whether product owner is Superman or what. Yes, the product owner is a Superman, but Superman has got an helper, right? And his assistant is the Scrum Master, right? The servant leader of the development team. Now, Scrum Master's service to the development team might act as a coach, might monitor the progress of the team, handle the request, celebrate the Scrum events. Scrum events means the sprint executions, the sprint review, sprint retrospective. This can be called as Scrum events. And after all the events are over, there is a celebration that goes up. That yes, we have done this. And Scrum Master's service to organization, that is Scrum adaptation, is totally dependent on the Scrum Master. How the Scrum Master coaches the development team and how the sustainable work can be taken up from the uh, team members of the Scrum. So therefore, effectiveness as well as efficiency, these two factors are being the concerning issues for Scrum Master. So it is not that easy to act as a bridge between the product owner and the development team, because the dual role playing, isn't it, is very difficult to do, isn't it? Because you have to balance, right? You have to balance the acts between the product owner and the development team. Now there is something called as a business analyst, someone who is business analyst. BA is a key role in traditional project. Now what BA does, that for larger projects, the workload on the product owner would be very large. So you need a business analyst who will analyze the uh, requirements, the business users, takes up the communication, and business analyst finally will be facilitating the discussions between the developers, product owners, and business users. So actually, the business analyst is the one who is bridging up the gap between developers, the product owners, and the business users. Why it is been required? Because product owner is a busy personnel altogether. Scrum Master will be busy in handling the development team. Development team are been running through the sprint. Where is the time remains? Where is the coordination factor? So the coordination factor can be taken care of by the business analyst, who will be an facilitator. So if certain value is being created through the user stories or through the product backlog or through running through the features and so on, the business analyst will keep an watch on that. So business analyst and product owner, comparison or just a summary, the BA is been a supporting entity who analyze defined area, checks whether the high level epics and stories are well organized and value driven, and they write the individual stories that are being clear and concise, assigns user stories and epics into logical structure, documenting the interrelationship between them, determines the business process flows, works around with the user stories and epics inconsistencies and their functionalities, and try to work around with the overall solutions for stakeholders. So The facilitations in all these regards, okay, that is simplification of job of product owner can be done by business analyst. Business analyst is not the, you can say, alternate or alternate choice or not a project manager, but business analyst is a facilitator, right? So moving next is user stories. We all know this is the format, standard format. As a role, okay, that is as a user, I want to be able to do something. I want to register my profile so that I can look into the features. That is the benefit. Look into the features. That is the benefit. This is a typical kind of an template. Remember that it should not go beyond one statement. It should not go beyond one statement. User stories are often being compared with the requirements, but one thing is very clear is that user stories are not requirements and requirements are not user stories, right? Because it is very clear that user stories, they are very simple in expressive power because you are indicating the things in smaller chunks, the things that are to be mentioned, as the Scrum is emphasizing on verbal communication. So the ambiguity has been eliminated because the wish list of the stakeholders has been mentioned into a single liner. There could be 100 user stories, there could be 200 stories. Let us not bother about the number of user stories that one is required to handle a particular product. But the thing is that the outcome is very sweet, isn't it? That is the NL that has been used to state the requirements, which was imprecise. That impreciseness has been removed by having a direct dialogue or face-to-face communication or verbal communication. Now we have focused on why to have BA, isn't it? Now the code refactoring. Code refactoring is the difficult most job that I can sense. It is a more challenging job than re-engineering. Probably re-engineering demands code refactoring to be there. Once upon time you are having a decomposition structure. Redo that decomposition structure, reframe it, repartition it, and then align the code. Now this is where the difficulty lies. Redoing the things, right? So considerable time is being required for doing code refactoring, and one of the dream-like situation is that if the code is not documented, then what you will do? If the code is not documented, what you will do in turn? You will feel the helplessness there, and there you will feel that yes, why not I have used any software configuration management tool. So it is always advisable to use the software configuration management tools here. Now continuous integration is the focus of Scrum, isn't it, to cross check every kind of an piece of code that is being part and parcel of shippable item or deliverable, and there can be some risks and limitations. If there is an large code development project, the returning back on continuous integration building and testing will not be that easy, but you have got support of resources and tools to automate these things. But one is the compromise that you are required to do is that if you want to do quality code, you have to train the employees. This is the first part. Another thing is that bring up the tools and resources that may simplify your job so that you can give a quality product. But this can have the initial or principal kind of an cost varying from the organization side. Training is of course required and practice is also required. Next is pair programming. Pair means two people, right? One is writing the code, Another one is moderating the code. So what is the benefit in doing these things? One is writing the code, another one is moderating the code by observations. So sharing the knowledge will have a better code as an outcome, and now less experienced and less confident developers, uh, they might debate around on the decisions to be taken. So seasoned people can do very well in pair programming. Okay, one can practice around. Okay, you all can practice around on pair programming. That one is writing the code, another one sit next and do the recommendations. Next is the test driven development, TDD, test driven development. One of the significant items in Scrum, that is continuous testing, that is starting from units, that is unit under test, then module under test, then package under test, and then subsystem under test, then the system under test. So above the system under test, there is UAT, that is user acceptance test. Once the user acceptance test is over, it means that you should be ready for the shippable items at the client side deployment. So therefore, there could be, two approaches here. One is the manual testing, and another approach is the automated testing. So unit testing has to be done first up. It should eliminate as far as possible the glitches in a single unit. The unit could be a component here, isn't it? Or the piece of code that you narrate to satisfy a particular user story, and then later on you can integrate it and you can check it. And if required, here itself if you do refactoring, then the things will be easy to handle. Never forget one thing, here again the software configuration management comes in picture, and it is better to use automated SCM repository tools. Definition of done. So when you can say that you have achieved the sprint outcome, or you have done a potentially shippable product. There is a difference between potentially shippable item and shippable item. Shippable item is an all tested okay kind of an item. So is it when the coding is complete? Is it when the coding and testing are complete? Does it depend on user acceptance? So definition of done includes code review, tested by developers and QA, accepted by product owner and other stakeholders if necessary. But it should have the stamping of product owner. Other stakeholders, about them, isn't it? You can have a separate UAT, that is user acceptance test, but you must be having a stamping from the product owner that yes, we have done a correct kind of work. Yeah. So let us move ahead. Quality assurance. So you may have concurrent testing. These are the approaches: acceptance test driven development, repeatable test, and automated regression testing, that is capture and replay, value driven and risk based testing. These are the part and parcel of black box testing. There are two important approaches in testing: the white box testing and black box. If you are there into the internals of any component, you are doing white box. If you are testing it from outside, you are being there with the black box, right? So moving next is time boxing. That is small chunks of the time fragments in agile projects. What are the advantages? This is a fixed interval. The time box is fixed interval. The interval could be 2 weeks or 4 weeks, right? To do the sprint. The advantages are focus. That is, in this week, what am I going to achieve? And increase productivity. Once you have done the work, you are never required to look back until the time comes. So, increased productivity, that is, you will not be repeatedly thinking about one particular issue. Once the issue is over, you are required to say that, okay, the issue is resolved. Now I can start off with the new assignment. Increased productivity, realization of time spent, that is, I have worked with the product, that is, my job is been done, and that will give you very, this is a not indicated factor, but this is been giving you a psychological cushioning, right? Psychological cushioning that yes, I have done the acts, isn't it? And you may realize the value of the time, and you are consciously aware about what durations you have to follow, how you have to work around, and therefore the increments. Again, I have to repeat that the Scrum or the Agile methodologies, they make use of the iterative as well as incremental approaches. So the word releases will be, of course, coming in picture. So in small increments, the features are being delivered with these fixed time sprints, right? So there are the estimation levels. So how the estimation levels are being there prepared? First, you have to do the project level planning, then do the release level planning, then do the sprint level planning. Now, as far as the traceability is concerned, you can go backward, that is from sprint to release to project, as far as the reporting is being concerned. So just see to it that shortest time horizon, least uncertainty, highest level of estimation accuracy should be there when you are there with the top down, and bottom up, longer time horizon, increasing uncertainty, and lowest level of estimation accuracy. So just try to compare this horizontal versus uh, you know the directions top down and bottom up. Right. Going next, what is a story point? Every story narrated in a simple English-like statement. That is, I want as a user, I want to do something, okay, so that I can achieve something. Now, you have to give the numbering to this. That is called as story point count. That is SPC. It can start from 1 and it should not go beyond 40 as recommended. You can reach up to 21, okay, for a single individual story as recommended by me, isn't it? So one of the thing is that the story points are the metrics, okay, to measure the completion of works, okay, so that the complex stories will require more time, and simple stories, that is the obvious one, might not require that much time to complete, right? So the here is the example, okay, this is the Fibonacci series, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. The next numbers were not been indicated by me, although they are been available, okay, you can check them. But it is very dangerous to go beyond this length, right? Because it is an indicator of very complex uh, user story, right? So high level product backlog grooming and voting technique is being used. Okay, the team members, they come together, they vote in that what should be the correct story point, whether it should be 5, whether it should be 8, or it should be escalated to 21, and then the tactical one. Once you have determined that the story points are these, then you may determine the team's velocity, right? That is, what performance is been expected out of us. That is, what kind of an cadence or rhythm we have to follow in addressing these stories along with the story points, right? The last level is the project level and release level planning. So planning poker is actually a game. Planning poker is actually a game that simply it has been derived from the Delphi method. Delphi method was one of the requirement elicitation technique to remind you. Just like brainstorming, Delphi was one of the structured communication technique for forecasting. Isn't it? So that was involving experts. But here, who is the expert? Here, the expert could be the Scrum Master. The expert could be the product owner if required, or if product owner is not available, the business analyst will take up the round. So the expert answers the questionnaires, then anonymous summary will be taken, revising the earlier answers, and then the correct answers is being freezed, and mean or median scores of the final rounds are being determined. So planning poker, just like on the cards, the numbers are being written 1, 3, 5, 8, and then 13, 21, like that. And every member of the development team picks up a particular card for a particular user story, doesn't show it to anybody. They group around and they open up their cards. So, majority wins here, isn't it? Right? If out of the 9, if 9 people are saying that yes, this is a complex story, let us rank it at 21, then that is an, kind of an acceptable situation. But 5 versus 4, then you have to take the decision. 5 people says that it is but obvious, okay, make it to 1, and other 4 are been saying that it is very complex. So too much kind of an drift has been there. So this is not permissible in planning poker. Okay. Well, that is a game. People do enjoy this game. Okay, just see to it that voting is been performed by showing the cards. Right, each card is having the value just like the Fibonacci series 1, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and so and so on. Now let us speak about the scaled agile framework, which has been used in industry from quite a long time, that is maybe around 4 to 5 years, right? Defined by Dean Leffingwell. So there are 3 layers you can see: team layer, program layer, and portfolio layer. Team layer, just see to it, it is about the team activities, okay? Team activities. Then program level, it recognizes the need to align and integrate the efforts of multiple teams. And portfolio is about the strategic, how the work can be allotted, and what is the response of the team. That is what has been analyzed. Just to remember, that is SAFe has got 3 layers, that is PPT, program, portfolio, and team. Or if we arrange it in an order, then it is portfolio, program, and team layer. That is PPT. Right? So, managed agile. This is another kind of an approach. You derive the project charter, isn't it? And you work out with the development layer. 2 layers you can see: project management layer and development layer based on Scrum. This is the usual practice: have product backlog, sprint backlog, work out with the sprint and working software. So you have got macro layer and micro layer. So what macro layer is been doing, it's related to traditional project layer. It is about project charter and project schedule, that is at the high level. And micro level is about doing the thing, is about doing the things. So it is a flexible kind of an adaptive approach which is based on the Scrum. So this is how you can make up an hybrid approach, that is a macro and micro arrangement with managed agile framework, that is mix-ins. But typically mix-ins are permissible or not is totally dependent on the organization's strategic management apex, that whether they want it or not. The very high level management takes the decision about this, right? But conceptually, I hope so that you have understood the macro layers and micro layers. High level framework, there is uh, SMEs will come in, small, medium scale enterprises, right? Small or medium scale enterprises, SME. Then you have got the project charter, just very similar to a combination of SOW and the SRS, right? And they begin with this thing and end up with the project level integration. The next level SME is bringing up the SCRUM, isn't it, at two layers, isn't it? One is the iteration planning. Before that, release planning has been done. Submit it to iteration planning. Do the sprint planning. Complete the sprint. Then do the release level integration. And then go around for the release or pre-production. Yeah. Next is the disciplined agile. We have seen the 2-3 approaches. Disciplined agile is probably the last approach, isn't it? In this wing, uh, although more sites to come. Here we have got unified process, right? Unified process. Can you see the unified process? The phases are in inception, elaboration, construction, and transition. The four phases of the unified process. But here we have got only three phases: inception, construction, and transition. Elaboration has been removed. So in inception phase, we reach out to what? We reach out to the stakeholder vision, right? And from construction start to end, we go around to architecture determination, design, iteration, daily work, sprint coordination, sprint review, retrospective, everything has been done. And you have got an operational system. And then the releases and the support and the productions are being done by the transition. So intermix of Scrum and the unified process. You can see the hybrid model. So that is what is DAD, that is disciplined agile delivery life cycle model. In short, it is called as DAD. So this all we have seen, isn't it? Team level, program level. Just see to it, ART is a specialized kind of a term, Agile Release Train, ART, right? PSIs, that is potentially shippable increments, right? We have to be careful about these two terms. So Agile teams, as we all know, product owner, Agile master, yeah, Agile teams, they work around on the non-functional requirements, isn't it, as well? Product owner and Agile master, isn't it? Again, the user stories must have to fit into the increments, to the tasks, and so on and so on. So collaboration is required. QA processes are required to be followed, right? One part is the agile teams, another part is the developers and testers. The this point probably we have discussed, that is user stories are not requirements. This is for your reference purpose. Yeah. So spikes. Spikes could be the indicator of it has been derived from XP, are a special type of story used to drive out the risk and uncertainty. So they are being used for basic research to familiarize the team with new technology or domain. I have indicated that for technology and best practices availability 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0 and 1, 1. So 0, 0, isn't it, is a complex domain, isn't it? And 0, 1 and 1, 0, I already indicated about them. Obvious domain has been there, right? Chaotic domain is also there. Yeah, so therefore, to work out with the technical risks, isn't it, and the functional risks, so we have to work out with the spikes. So technical spikes and functional spikes are going to happen. What are technical spikes? They are used to research various technical approaches, that is, build versus buy decision for a particular, shippable item. If it has been available, can we reuse it or can we take it from the outside world? What is the potential performance or load impact of a new user story that has been added? Now just see to it that user stories will be kept on adding. Likewise, change is inevitable. Yeah, it is part and parcel of our lives also, isn't it? So therefore, the impact of the news stories also has to be judged. So technical spikes are usually about the build buy decisions. Functional spikes is to about to handling the significant uncertainties. So this will be evaluated through some level of prototyping. So prototyping comes in mockups, page flows, or whatsoever techniques. Okay, user interface we have discussed yesterday. That are there are complexities that are been involved in user interface design as well. So complex problem is always been handled into two spaces. One is the technical space, another one is the functional space. So the spikes in this, right? Unnecessarily the spikes will not happen, right? There is something due to which the spike happens, and then we have to find out the reason why these spikes are been happening. So just see to it that utilization versus cycle time, that is small batches, medium batches, large batches, right? So we have to work out with the large batches, okay, it comes in the way, okay, very bigger changes are in there. So how to manage them is a difficult question altogether. If it comes in small branches, okay, so medium batches, okay, then there will not be any kind of a problem in working out with the utilization. Spikes, they are not directly delivering any user value, but they demand that they should be accommodated, isn't it? Likewise, a new story has been added. We are required to work around with the how we can add up the new stories without damaging the present structure. Guidelines for the spikes: estimate, demonstrate, and demonstratable and acceptable. It is the exception and not the rule. That is to manage the uncertainty and risk and implement the spike in separate iteration. Right. So you should not have a spike iteration, right, which is specifically addressing the spikes. You should not have a separate kind of an cycle for the same. It should be done in one-to-one kind of an correspondence. One iteration, one spike. Another spike, another iteration. So therefore, accommodation of that will be also easy, and the kind of an risky situations could be avoided because you are able to discuss, you are able to collaborate, you are able to experiment, negotiate the solutions, and of course, with a better time management and within the time box constraints, you can do the solution. Now, the system stakeholders, just have a look at them. First degree, second degree, and third degree. Very simple to understand. First degree, second degree, and third degree. First degree, people who use the product, who they are, consumer and utility users, administrator. Second degree, who work with the results, isn't it? That is technology contract, technology support, right? Maintenance team. And third degree, that is people who install, deploy, support the system. So according to the ranking, which is the complex job, first degree or second degree or third degree? It's indeed the third degree, right? But for whom you are doing it, it's for first degree, right? And how you can form the bridge is through the second degree, right? So this is how you may understand this diagram. Proceeding next, user personas. Now, in variety of text, this statement is being used, user personas, and human-computer interaction uses it very heavily, or UX design. They use this user personas uh, up to multiple extents. User personas provide means of further refining approach. Be very careful in reading this. User personas provide a means of further refining the approach to the user to make sure that the needs of different types of users are being met. So, are they the user? No, they are the representatives. They are the representatives. So just see to it. Primary personas represents the user with specific needs, and you work out with specific intentional user interface design for them. Secondary personas are the people who will use that system but can use an interface that was been designed for primary personas. So therefore, one is being the dominating kind of an factor, primary user, and secondary user will take out something from the primary user. So that is what is the difference between primary personas and secondary personas. We understand the user personas as representatives and not the actual users, and not the actual users. They are representatives. They are representatives. Therefore, do not confuse user personas and user, right? So, the difference has been clarified to you. So, UX design, user interface experience design, I'm sorry, is further complicated than user experience testing. So, here usability tests will be taking place on design and implementation. UX design is one of the agile approaches, right, which is being used in specific kind of an system development, which is UI intensive. Typically, you may go around on any kind of an application which requires common style presentations, and just see to it that what kind of details you are going to provide with the uh, usability kind of concerns. Not everything is been required to be shown at one glance. Remember this rule and law, right? So this particular aspect, isn't it, should uh, be in turn matches with the cadence, that is the rhythm, predictable rhythm, user experience stories, prototyping, and clearing out 7 ways of software development, right? That was our first slide. That is how not to land into the 7 ways of the software. Now here onwards there will be diagrams. What I have told you, isn't it, has been mentioned with the diagrams. Scrum practices, the rules, okay, the activities, right? You can find it out. Sprint planning, daily scrum, sprint execution, review, retrospective, and so on, so on. Artifacts are product backlog, sprint backlog, and PSIs, that is potentially shippable increments, and the rules, right? And scrum activities, just see to it, and artifacts. This is again an elaboration on the Scrum activities, right? And what are the outcomes that we are been reaching out. And sprint backlog, as we see that it is broken into the set of features, okay? The sprints, isn't it? Set of features broken into the set of tasks, right? You can narrate down the hours that is being required for each thing, so that you may work out with the 24-hour cycle, right? As a team, as a whole, I am saying, not a single individual. 24 hours, okay, one cannot work all together. From morning 6 to next day, morning 6, okay. This is not the cycle, okay. It is an human time, right? Or a team time. So the daily scrum, we know that each feature is being iteratively being completed. 3 engaging elements are been there. Again to mention you, DBT, that is designers, builders and testers. Then sprint backlog, as I said you, initially if it has been 100, it should go on reducing till we reach 0. Daily scrum and definition of done, which is quite important. So inspect and adapt is the technique. Every 24 hours the charter is being fixed up, and if something has been lagging, the action has been required to be taken by the development team first amongst themselves, because they are self-organized, self-motivated, self-committed, and if you require guidance, Scrum Master is always there to help you out as a part of the development team. And then you have got the sprint review. The review is for the iteration for the sprint, and the next level is the sprint retrospective. It is a formal review of the work done, and this is the set of principles, right, for you. In short, it has been mentioned in terms of diagram, that is variability and uncertainty, prediction and adaptation, validated learning, work in progress, that is WIP, progress and performance, and from a defined kind of a process, we have got both the iterative and incremental kind of an approaches together. So hybrid approaches are being there. We have seen waterfall for the obvious domain. We have seen the DAD model, disciplined agile development, that is DAD. And, here we can see the Scrum process, right? Again, in a very uh, short kind of an story, that is in terms of input output. Yeah, between input output there is Scrum. We have got 2 things helping the Scrum out, that is the product inspection versus process inspection. Are we building the product right, and are we building the right product, right? So just see the explorations, isn't it? Yeah, the cost has been going up with the cost of differing growing up, and adaptive approach or exploratory approach declines the cost, isn't it? So cost sensitiveness is the another factor with the Scrum. And then self-fulfilling, okay, we believe late change is very expensive, right? Second one, we fear cost of late change, right? And which causes us the prematurely create many work products. Yeah. So the threats are being there, isn't it? Threats are being there. We just see to it that this is the cost of change, isn't it? Just see to the phases: analysis, design, coding, testing, and operations. If you are changing something right at operational level, the cost will be very high, isn't it? Accommodating change. So therefore, you require best of the breed business analyst, best of the breed product owner, best of the breed scrum master to work out with these 3 things, DBT, right? Then this cost will go down, okay? This will not be there, okay, increasing. It will become either steady or will fall down. So this is how we end up with the detailing on the Scrum process. Thanks a lot for giving me your valuable time.